Good morning, folks. Chris Varley with the Trade Ideas Support and Education team here. I want to do a video about pre-market scanning and how to build pre-market scans. I get a lot of questions about this, and I think there's a lot of misinformation or misconception about the pre-market and scanning in it. During any given pre-market session, there's really only a handful of stocks that are relevant. If you're a momentum trader, you're looking for those kind of breakouts and what could be the big movers on the day. This is evidenced by the lack of volume and shares traded in most stocks during the pre-market. So stocks that have little volume traded in that pre-market is really not an indication of anything it may do regardless of how it moves. There are also some filters and alerts that do not work in the pre-market, and so it's something else I want to go over here. And really just basically how simple it is to find what's actually moving in the pre-market without doing a whole lot of adding of data points or anything like that. So let's first build a top list for the pre-market. We're going to go new, top list. All right. And we'll come to the search and, maybe we want a price range on this, right? So price is right up at the top. We can go ahead and select price. We're going to add that filter. Perhaps, and I think one of the most important parts is volume shares. All right, and we're going to add that filter. I'm going to start here. Let's just say we want to start with $1 minimum here. We won't put a maximum for the price. On the shares today, think about this, right? If you have a stock that has traded 5,000 shares by 8 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, there's not any action in it, right? There could be one individual fund that was, a late settlement of almost that much from prior sessions. But at the same time, you don't want to maybe wait until something's traded 1 million shares in the pre-market. So this becomes a give and take, right? And there's no right answer on how many shares we need to be putting in this here. Something that trades 10,000 shares at 4:30 a.m. is, maybe a little more interest at that point than something that's traded that amount of shares at 8:30 a.m. But something could have traded that amount of shares at 4:30 a.m. and then not trade another share afterwards, right? And then where's the interest in that, right? Again, it's gone. So this is where that fine line becomes, right? And how our sorting on the change percent with the volume becomes very important. So, I think a nice place to live with something like this is around 30,000 shares. You may disagree and you may want to put something else there. That's entirely up to you. That's what makes a market, right? And so we've got just those two items there. Now watch this. We're going to come to change from close and on a percent, and we're going to sort by this column here. We'll press sort by, and then we're working with that. Just want to get rid of some of the things we don't necessarily need here. And when we press OK, it'll bring us to the summary page. We can name this here. And you can name this anything we want. We can name this post-market, even though it's not pre-market. So just always keep that in mind when you see the names of scans. We're going to call this pre-market action. When we press OK, we're going to get a list that looks like this. Now, relative volume does not work in the pre-market. If you put it in a scan, it won't work. It'll block the data here. You just see it all defaults to 1. That's how the relative volume works in this. Okay, so I think that's very important to note about pre-market here as far as that goes. There are other pre-market, or there are other filters in the pre-market that won't work, but they don't block data like the relative volume does. It just means they're not using pre-market data as part of their data set. So, anybody with questions on those, emails info@trade-ideas.com. We'll get you a PDF of what does and does not work in the pre-market like that. So, all right, now we're here and we can see these stocks are the ones up the most. We've got this change from close percent column there, and that helps us indicate what they're up from the percent. But then we can look at the volume and shares traded today, right? And so, makes it real clear, with 8 million shares traded, we have interest. With 51 million shares traded, we have interest, right? 7 million, we have interest, right? And we can see, moving down that there's a lot of interest in most of these stocks. But FPay, 109,000 shares traded. Is it just getting going? May or may not be as interesting as some of these other options that are up here. And as we scroll down, we can see that, volume starts to fade in some of these other ones. That they do have some good sized pre-market moves here, but they may or may not be in interest to us, right? And we move all the way down here where we've got stocks that are up just 4%. Not that that's nothing, but that's not usually the big move that people are looking for in the pre-market. There are other ways we can filter things down in this if we want to, of course. But I think this makes it really easy and really simple that, look, the stocks that are up the most here, we've got a little bit of volume metrics to try to cut out some of the nonsense here by putting a base of 35,000 as volume shares traded today. So it makes it real easy as far as the top lists go. There's also alert windows we can scan with, so we're going to move that over here, right? And we're going to go to new, alert window. And the same as the top list, this has filters, but now we have an alert event. Some alert events will not work in the pre-market. Some will. Again, you can email us info@trade-ideas.com for that PDF, but some clear, easy examples. New high, that's going to work for intraday, not pre-market, right? So we want pre-market high. And here we go. We got pre-market highs, or on the vice versa side, there is the pre-market lows as well. And we go ahead and we can add that alert. We'll click that in here. Let's get rid of this. But I also suggest to folks that maybe they're looking for stocks that had made a pre-market high earlier, pulled way back, and now they're moving back up again. You might consider the 5-minute high as well. And we got that here, and we can add that alert as well. And then we can head in here, and in the window specific filter, again, we could put a price floor here. We could put a minimum shares traded, I would say, again, 35,000 on this one here. And we can keep it as simple as that if we like, right? We can press OK. We can give it pre-market alerts. And we can come in here with this, and we can see we get a lot of alerts that are coming here. So this may be a little more than you want for alerts and repeats. So we could always, slow it down, right-click properties, actions, right-click properties, don't repeat. And we set things to not repeat for a minute, 5 minutes, so on and so forth as far as the symbols go. There are a few other ways we could slow things down here, right? We could right click, we can come to configure, and come to search. We can get some other volume metrics that are in here, right? We've got an intraday volume set here that will work in the pre-market. So we could take a 1-minute volume on a percent, 100's normal, 200's 2 times turns, 3 times, 400's 4 times, so on and so forth. You're not going to find all the stocks that are moving in the morning will have huge volume in that regard as compared to the regular session. So, maybe we take a 1-minute volume and we could start. And some of this can become a little trial and error and plug things in to see how you feel about it. We start with a 50 here, right? And we plug that in like that. And that may slow us down a little bit here. We also have that same type of volume metric on some other time frames here. Again, same idea, that's right here, 5 and 10, 15 minutes. You may want to see things that are getting a bigger burst and a bigger move. So instead of our 5-minute high alert or pre-market high alerts, you might consider something from what we call a running up family of alerts. These will all work in the pre-market for you as well. So this may be something you want to consider as well for kind of more momentum, boom, I'm really moving right now type of things. Again, I think having some kind of volume metrics behind it all, whether it's a shares accumulative or 1-minute or 5-minute volume percent or combination thereof, I think are important to eliminate some of the noise. And then, you can use these two windows in combination with each other. The top list is just going to refresh. Every stock that meets it's going to be there every few seconds. Every few seconds, if something doesn't belong there anymore, it's going to fall off this versus you're getting a time-stamped alert here, as you can see, with the alert window as well. And so these can work as a nice combination with each other in that regard. So that's my video on pre-market scanning. I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, as always, info@trade-ideas.com. That's how you get to us. Take care.